the house of the Assads has in fact fallen. This just in, you've got 24 years of Bashar al-Assad's regime and of course about 29 years of his father, Hafiz al-Assad's regime that has now completely collapsed. It was hanging by a mere thread over the last week, and now as the Islamist fighters and rebels made their way into the suburbs of Damascus, breaking all those statues of Hafiz al-Assad, whatever they could find in the way, I think it's safe to say that Damascus and the regime of Assad has fallen to the Islamist fighters. We're going to tell you all that we're picking up at this point in time, because first and foremost, this was in a televised statement early this morning that Islamist fighters confirmed the release of all the prisoners and said that they're soon going to be making their way inside and in the heart of Damascus. And this dramatic collapse, like we're bringing you these visuals of statues being broken down, not one in the presidential palace, gunfire, which is, mind you, as ostentatious as it is luxurious, ladies and gentlemen. If the Islamist rebels have made their way inside the presidential palace, it's safe to assume that the Assads have, well, fled. To what location? We don't know. Many are saying it could be their ally, Russia, that's going to be their home next. But this dramatic collapse is a watershed moment for the entire West Asian region, bringing an end to the Assad family's decades-long authoritarian rule in Syria. You've got President Bashar al-Assad, who reportedly fled the capital earlier. Syrian Prime Minister Mohammad Ghazi al-Jalali, he said that he remained in his home and was ready to support the continuity of governance. You've got nearly 2,000 Syrian soldiers that were earlier seen crossing into Iraq near the Al-Qaim to, well, seek sanctuary in Iraq. And that's not all. The situation is also delivering a significant blow to Russia and Iran, stripping them of a critical ally in the region. And the same goes for Syria as well. So much of Syrian loss in the process. We earlier got to know that the Iraqi embassy and the Iranian embassies were ransacked in Syria as well. Joining me on the broadcast is Dr. Zakir Hussain, a West Asian expert. A very warm welcome to you, Doctor, and Major General Sanjay Mestan, defense and strategic expert. General, always a pleasure to have you with us. Before I open the discussion to you, gentlemen, let's quickly take a look at this ground report that has been filed by Reuters. It's a complete, essentially, report on what's happening on the 7th of December, on the 8th of December. And as a matter of fact, even before we do that, General, let me bring you in. Let me have your quick insights as to what's happening in Syria. We saw what began in Aleppo has now reached Damascus, and with the fury and speed that it has, does it account for more bloodshed in the days to come?
Happened, Kabir, in a lightning speed, unexpected, very, very fast, and I think the whole world is surprised. The Syrian forces simply just gave up. They removed their uniforms and they just put on civilian clothes and they just surrendered or just became part of the crowd. So Assad lost his full control, and I think why he lost was 54 years of brutal regime and torture and use of chemical weapons. I think this has gone against him, and there has been total celebrations in the entire Syria, and including all Syrians who are abroad, whether in Europe or Arab states, they are celebrating. So they consider it as a victory, as a free Syria, and it's considered as a great independence for them. However, the strategic allies have lost out. Russia and Iran, they have lost out in totality. I think Turkey has been the biggest gainer, but I think overall the United States will continue to retain its presence. I'm just giving in a short brief since you asked
No, absolutely,
me.
absolutely, General. I agree with what you're saying. United States is going to continue to be there. Of course, I'm going to let you finish your thoughts and then bring Dr. Zakir Hussain in. Over to you, General.
Yeah, and Israel is going to be on the watch because if, now there's a big question mark, what happens next? Now, initially it is celebration. How is this transition going to take place and how it fans out? And supposing the ISIS or Al-Qaeda, they start, coming in large numbers and they take control of the things over there, then it is going to harm the entire world. I would say Russia, it will harm the United States, it's going to harm Israel and even Turkey. So it's a very fluid situation. But as on date, I am a cautious optimist. I feel things will stabilize and we can discuss on that subsequently, Kabir.
All right, main thanks, General, for your opening comments. Dr. Hussain, take a look at this map that we'll put out for all the viewers as well, just to understand who controls what in Syria. We were earlier looking at Aleppo and, of course, parts of Idlib, but that map has certainly changed. Various portions are now talking about the previously held positions in the Syrian government, and now Damascus being a big portion that the HTS has claimed. What is next when you're looking at, from a very cartographic perspective? How will the map now change continuously?
I think that right now on the ground map will not change so fast, but the power is shifting from one hand to other hand. What I feel that the fall of Assad has surprised many, but those who are watching, they were suspecting that there might be a fall because his strong allies Russia and Iran and Hezbollah were not coming to his rescue. Uh, Thus, within 12 days, it all happened. Uh, what is happening here that what is next after that? Because this is not a victory of a single group, like Tahrir al-Sham. It's a victory of all other groups like Syrian Free Army,
Right.
Kurdish. They were silent. They were putting their differences aside just to fight with one single enemy, that is Assad, to go. Here, what I feel that Tahrir al-Sham has try to show a very philanthropic phase so it can win the faith of the public and continue the regime as it is, because
Has
he
it
is
been able to
telling
do
that
so? Has it been able to do so, Dr. Hussain?
till now he is telling the prime minister he should officially hand over the power as a successor of. He has not let anybody to sabotage the capital or any building or anything. His Jolani is telling that the let prime minister hand over his power, and his prime minister is Assad prime minister said that he is ready to hand over the power. So it means that they are telling that Tahrir al-Sham is the legitimate successor of Bashar al-Assad, which is going to bring peace and stability and economic prosperity. Whether we have to see what kind of political governance they are going to bring, whether democratic or war. So a big war is a big chaos is still waiting. If they are not handling the situation in a right way, then Syria is likely to plunge into another civil war. And now what is happening? Who is gaining what? Here comes Iran, and as you said that Iran and Iraq has their embassies are attacked. It
Right.
means Iran and Iraq will be the worst sufferer from this. Russia would like to stay with Turkey. Turkey is the first gainer. Russia would like to stay with Turkey. It has a base in Tartus, warm water port. It would not like to leave that port, because if it is leaving that port, a very strategic port, I have visited there. It is controlling the eastern Mediterranean Sea, where thousands and thousands of Russian troops are there. A couple of weeks back, we discussed that they
Right.
did hypersonic testing the hypersonic missile and nuclear missile. So they are not going to leave easily that place, and in that Turkey will be there. But what about USA and Israel? Israel has already declared to change the political boundary in Golan Heights, and in the last 50 years, for the first time, it has exceeded its boundary.
Dr.
While
Hussain, I'll tell
Russia,
you what, the
yeah,
military is also active right there on the other side of the Golan Heights, and we've seen those,
yeah.
military tanks get activated just over this weekend as well. General and Doctor, do stay on with us, because Dr. Hussain spoke about how Israel is now looking at it. Take a look at this. We've got our Deputy Managing Editor, Kartike, who spoke to former executive of the Israeli National Security Council, Itai Melchua, on what the current developments in Syria mean essentially for Israel. Take a listen, and we'll come back for more.
All the neighbors are looking on anxiously. This is a big regional issue. It's not even only Israel and Jordan. Remember that Turkey, which is probably one of the main actors in this play right now, is a NATO member also. And the neighbors are also Lebanon, which is in shambles, and Iraq, which is not in a good position. And in the end, I think this is all also part of the domino reaction that started on October 7th in Gaza, with the Iran proxy Hamas attacking Israel, and then Hezbollah in Lebanon. And now we get to Syria, where Hezbollah and Iran are also big actors. I think that Assad was quite surprised by the lack of help that he got, both from the Russians, who, as the ambassador said, are distracted in their own affairs, but also the Iranians, who did not have the ability or possibility to help him, maybe because of what has happened to Hezbollah and their backbone. And this left Assad all on his own, even rumored to have made a last moment plea to the US, please, if you help me, I will forsake my ties with Iran. But this is all behind us. And we now see a new, we spoke in 2011, we spoke about the Arab Spring, which started the civil war in Syria, which led to more than 500,000 casualties and millions of Syrians having to flee the country. This is all part of this chain still going on. What it will play out, how it will play out is a good question. Remember, when we speak about the rebels, it's not one organization of rebels, it's a multitude of organizations in different areas. Close to the Israeli border, rebels have also taken over, but that's not the rebels who are taking over the big cities. And therefore, the question is how things will settle internally in Syria, because there are different interests and different groups of rebels. And the question is who will prevail, how this will act out. Are we going to see one united Syria going out of this stronger for the good of its civilians, or are we going to see a lot of infighting going on between the different fractions?
Well, General, I'd like you to come in here. You just heard what the Israeli point of view right now, looks like. You touched upon a little bit on Donald Trump as well, and let's quickly put that Donald Trump quote out on the viewers for the viewers' perusal as well. He says, "Let's not interfere. This is not our fight. We've got nothing to do with it." And along the same vein, General, before I come to you, listen into how Daniel Shapiro has also reacted to it. Somebody who's been an ambassador to Israel and has a keen focus on the West Asian sector as well. Listen into Daniel Shapiro, and we'll go to General Messon for more.
We will continue to consult closely with regional partners who are affected by this crisis to support their security needs. Our commitment to them remains stronger than ever. We will also continue to maintain our presence in eastern Syria, which is solely to ensure the enduring defeat of ISIS and has nothing to do with other aspects of this conflict. We will continue to take the measures necessary to defend our forces and our partners and to prevent a resurgence of ISIS in eastern Syria. Current situation in Syria is the direct result of the Assad regime's ongoing atrocities and reliance on Russian and Iranian support. So if confirmed, no one should shed any tears over the end of the Assad regime. We call on all parties in Syria to protect civilians, particularly those from Syria's minority communities, to respect international humanitarian norms, and to work to achieve a resolution through an inclusive political settlement consistent with UN Security Council Resolution 2254.
General, do come in here. We were earlier beginning this discussion, I think, about a week back, talking about how Turkey and United States are essentially doing this backroom management, and their stooges are at play. Somebody said the CIA, somebody said Pentagon, and all those stooges itself. You're looking at these developments coming out of United States. How can you help the viewers?
Yeah, my take is as follows. Firstly, let's be very clear that it is a coalition of rebel forces who have acted together, and it is under HTS, the leader Jolani. So he has been the I would say, the nerve center of getting all these people together. Yes, Turkey and of course United States has definitely helped. But the second point is that why the Syrian forces have collapsed. This is again a point because they were fighting their own people. So keeping all these factors in mind, I personally feel that the people of Syria, and especially who are even abroad, and the 7 million refugees, they are so happy, and they are wanting to come back. Unlike Afghanistan, where people were fleeing when Taliban came back, here people want to return. So that's a very positive development. Now, coming on to Jolani. Jolani, definitely, he is going to form this coalition government. Yes, it's a very difficult thing, but see, they have learned lessons from Iraq. They have learned lessons from Afghanistan. They have learned lessons from Libya after Gaddafi's fall in 2011. So they have got all this, and they have now entered, and they have seen the celebrations by the local Syrians. So therefore, they have to now decide, which I'm quite sure they have decided, that either there be a repressive regime, which was the Assad regime, or they be more moderate and run the government, run the country towards development, peace and prosperity, which actually should be the aim. And if that happens, I'm quite optimistic it will happen. Yes, there are a large number of coalition forces to get them on board. I think there will be give and take. the Kurdistan probably may come as a little reality. Turkish may not
A great point,
be.
General. Great point, General, that you've made over here, because I was actually going to come to that. Let's put that map again. Dr. Hussain, your viewpoints on this one. Come in here. I think that's an important, pertinent point that the General has touched upon here. Kurdistan, the Kurdish community and the population. I mean, look at the sizable chunk, not just in Syria, in Iraq, several other countries in the nearby vicinity as well, as to who controls what. A big major portion goes to the Kurdish community. We're talking about a transfer of power. Take a look at that. The big purple portion that you can see is all controlled by the Kurds. And Dr. Hussain, we're talking about transition of power. Is Syria even a country right now? Are we looking at authoritarian transfer of power? What's really at play? It's so confusing, isn't it?
First, I want to explain about the Syrian map, Kurdish. This is the nightmare of Turkey. Turkey does not want Syria an independent state for Kyrgyzstan, because USA promised during long 11 years of war. They were this Peshmerga, the fighter of Kurdish known as Peshmerga. They were supporting USA blindly, and USA promised to give them a land, and it has carved out. It has planned to give land from that portion of Turkey, that portion of Syria, and some portion of Turkey. Turkey does not want any Syrian Kurdish state in there. So there may be some conflict between USA and Turkey and Israel, and at that point of time, that Israel, Russia may side Turkey. This is the one of the region. Second, coming to your question, that it's a matter of concern to see that what kind of governments comes in, what kind of governance comes in, because Saudi Arabia, UAE, and all these are sitting and they don't want any democratic development here. The majority of if we compare with Iraq, their democracy brought Shias into power because they are in the majority. In Syria, Sunnis are in majority. 5 to 8% जो है Shia, 5% Druze belonging to Assad community, they were ruling, and they were traditionally coming. It was not having any sectarian biasness. It was a traditional setup before the coming of USA. Everywhere minority was ruling. In Iraq, Sunnis were ruling. They were in minority. In Afghanistan, 40% Taliban were ruling. They were in minority. In Syria, Druze were in minority. 5% they were ruling. There was not a problem. But after coming to USA, in this region, sectarian divide deepened, and some issue of Iran also came. It ignited the sectarian division. That's why the sectarian issue has become so important in current geopolitical context of the region. So if democracy comes, then 65 to 70% population is Sunni, and they will come to power. Democracy will. But the neighboring countries where monarchy is flourishing, where monarchy wants to establish a model for, not in the region, for entire global Muslim countries, these monarchies are telling the Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, they are telling that this is the best form to rule of governance, authoritarian form. So there might be some problem here, because Jolani is a very paradoxical thing for Jolani. Jolani in 2012, he was associated with Al-Nusra, which is an affiliate of Al-Qaeda. In
Right.
2012, in Iraq, he was declared terrorist organization, terrorist, and on his head 10 million bounties on his head. But in the last couple of days, CNA conducted a 10 minutes exclusive interview with Jolani that shows the complicity of USA in the whole episode in the background. So situation is not
All
very
right.
easy
All right.
to guess further, and the region, we have to wait and watch what is going to happen. But my concern is that already Syrian population has suffered so much. 90% population is below poverty line, and the region is going under transition. But other thing that uh, Lebanon is gone, Iraq is weakened, Syria is gone, then what will happen to Hamas, Palestine, and all these groups? So if you, again, one point I want to make, if you take Syria in historical context, in historical geopolitical context, since the rise of Islam, it played a very pivotal role in the region. And again, it was providing a very base to the Iranian expansion as a resistance force, because Syria was the
All right.
backbone of providing Hezbollah, then Hezbollah to Hamas,
No,
and
Dr.
then
Hussain,
Iraq.
you are making pertinent points. What
Yeah.
of the entire Palestine narrative that has been growing, and people have been talking about ever since that October 7th attack that took place, in Israel as well. From where you left off, West Asia strategic expert Dr. Wail Awad, he was with us on the show just a short while ago. Again, speaking to Karthike, shedding light on exactly who controls what in Syria. Let's quickly take a listen.
I think what is happening in Syria, Syria survived, for 10,000 years, and we will survive this onslaught as well. So I'm sure, being a Syrian, my city was encircled for the last 3 days by these forces who have come from Idlib, northern part of Syria, occupied by Turkey, trained, well armed with drones and equipped with the sophisticated weapon and the GPS of the United States spy satellite. We understand that this game plan is already being played in Syria, and the same fashion they played in Afghanistan and Iraq and even in Bangladesh, your neighborhood. So we know that this is who has led these forces. And in fact, we know that this is a clean and break policy of the United States 1995, put on actions, and 2007, the United States accepted that they should break up Syria, Iraq, Iran, and the axis of resistance, in fact, which we call it extended from Iran to Yemen, against the American and Israeli hegemony in this part of the world. So the Syrian government, considered to be a secular country, prior to 2011, we never had a problem. Actually, it was a stable and self-reliance secular country, and the government may have been doing malpractices for many of the corruptions was there. They were looking for political reforms, never happened till the people of Syria took peaceful demonstration for 6 months, hoping that this will be bringing a change in the government. Then the Islamist forces came and took over the revolution of the Syrian people. And now what we see is nothing but a collaboration of three fronts.
Well, all right. General, take a look at this. And Dr. Hussain, for your perusal as well, needless to say for the viewers as well, breaking developments vis-a-vis the Syrian conflict that we're looking at, and of course, the fall of the Assad regime. Now, the Russian Foreign Ministry has put out a statement. It says the President Bashar al-Assad has resigned and has left Syria. General, where do you think Bashar al-Assad is headed? I mean, it was an undisclosed location, but it seems like the Russian ally seems to be the most comfortable and safest haven for Bashar al-Assad. Very quickly, we're running out of time, General.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel probably Assad has fled in the night, during the night, maybe to Tartus, where the Russian naval base is there. And probably he is in one of the Russian ships. That is what I presume, finally going to head back to Russia, because that is the safest place. In UAE and all, I doubt, though UAE is also another option being talked about, but I think most likely it is going to be Russia.
All right. Dr. Hussain, how are you looking at these developments? I mean, the statement that we were all waiting for, so, with, of course, so much eagerness, it's coming from the Russian Foreign Ministry.
Yeah. What General said, I agree with it. The safest place is Russia, and before that, several Arab countries offered him to asylum, but he did not choose. And it is said that he has taken away $30 billion on his aircraft, but it is not possible. It is not possible to carry $30 billion cash on aircraft, but he has gone with massive cash. This is the story of all Arab dictators. They come from Morocco, from Algeria, from everywhere. When they fled, they went with the bounties of the nation and settled somewhere else. So he might also be doing the same thing. But here I want to say that the forces against Assad was very active since beginning, since 2011, even before that.
Right.
But Assad squandered the opportunity to reform the governance, to include the which people were aspiring. In 2000, he came from England as a ophthalmologist, doctor of eyes, and people are expecting that he is a very, very new, like MBS is appreciated in Saudi Arabia. He was appreciated in Turkey at that time, but he was under the pressure of big guns not to reform, because they were exploiting the country from all sorts of things. So he could not reform. He got 5 opportunities to reform the country, but he did not reform. While at the same time, he slept on the back. In 2019, there was agreement between Iran, Turkey, and Russia that there will be a ceasefire. And since then, he has neither modernized his army, neither recruited new things, while the oppositions were modernizing and keeping their powder dry. Even the Tahrir al-Sham were training their fighters with drone and all these things. And this played a very key role in terrorizing the simple people who were giving only dress and outdated guns, and they just
Right,
melted
right.
away by these.
No, you're
Yes.
absolutely making some pertinent points over
Yeah.
there. We also have
Yeah.
Hakan Fidan, the foreign minister of Turkey. Let's understand a Turkey perspective here before we wrap this segment up as well.
As of this morning, Syria has reached a stage where the Syrian people will shape the future of their own country. Today, there is hope. The Syrian people cannot achieve this alone. The international community must support the Syrian people. Turkey attaches great importance to the national unity, stability, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of Syria and the well-being of the Syrian people. Thereby, millions of Syrians who were forced to leave their homes can return to their land. The new administration must be established in an orderly manner. The principle of inclusiveness must never be compromised. There must never be a desire for revenge.
Well, gentlemen, it has been a riveting conversation. General Mastan, Dr. Hussain, many thanks for joining us here on the broadcast and helping us out with your insightful inputs. Needless to say, there's a lot more that needs to be looked at. Of course, a statement from Bashar al-Assad is, of course, being awaited. The Russian Foreign Ministry has said that Bashar al-Assad has resigned. Iran and Iraq embassies have been ransacked in Damascus, ladies and gentlemen, and the Islamist fighters, they've made their way inside Damascus. 53-year-long regime of the Assads has completely fallen down. What is United States' role here? Will it interfere? Will it not interfere? What has Turkey got to do? And will the Russian ally now really regroup and fortify and help out Bashar al-Assad? Well, we'll have to wait and find out. We're going to slip into a quick commercial breather here, but on the other side, top developments, of course, vis-a-vis the Syrian conflict as well.